Hello, fellow Lilligans, anti-novelists, curious onlookers, and friends. It is another 98-degree day in Missouri. I think the heat index is 112. So once again, I'm hiding in the library with you. So we took a look at the new setup of my little Zettelkasten yesterday. Today I've been busily hammering away. I am at 5576 for my word count of the Zettelkasten for Fiction book. Today's chapter was about Kishotenketsu, which is a Eastern form of story writing that does not revolve around conflict. Instead, it revolves around character development, potentially emotion, and a twist rather than conflict. So super exciting stuff going on in the Zettelkasten for Fiction book, which is still spread out on the tables in note cards, which are making up the chapters. So what I wanted to do today is I want to bring you over here to the desk, and I want to take a look at a architecture document that I created to show you what my process looks like. So let's just rip it out of the old Happy Planner and let's take a look. This document shows you the architecture of my Zettelkasten and how I use it for fiction writing. This will be included in the book, so if you pick up my book, which I would love it if you would when it's finished, you will get your own copy that you can use and customize for your process. So let's take a closer look. The first thing you see up here at the top is the note card zone. The note card zone is where you're doing your thinking, okay? So between thinking, research, and development, those are the areas from which you create note cards. So the thinking box includes things like brainstorming, like if you're working on a particular character and you're starting to think, I think maybe she's going to have a severe phobia about flying, okay? Those kinds of brainstorming details, those are what go on your thinking character cards, for example. Flash bunnies are something that I introduced you briefly to yesterday when I showed you this little mobile deck that I use just to capture ideas on when I'm on the go. I also have another little ring set that looks like this. This is just for capturing ideas. A great way to repurpose old business cards is to just use the back. And you'll notice, let's see, what does this card say? Zettelkasten, an analog card system for organizing information on predetermined subjects. And I've got a pink piece of washi and a blue piece of washi. You might remember pink or red is the primary color for my main female character, and blue is the primary color code for my male main character. What those mean are, for each of those characters, the Zettelkasten itself is going to figure prominently. No spoilers of the story, but there will be a Zettelkasten making an appearance. So that's why I flag those with those character colors, so that I remember what that's for. So those are the Flash bunnies. I've got one for the Voynich manuscript. I've got one specifically for embroidery. These are just little card packets that allow me on the go to grab those bunnies. Think of it as plot bunnies, which multiply and jump around all over your head when you're trying to write. Well, for me, Flash bunnies don't only multiply like crazy around plot, they multiply all over the story, the plot, the structure, you name it, I get them. So that's why I use those little mobile card decks to capture those and then file them away. Next thing on the list is general plotting. So that's the first thinking part of my Zettelkasten for Fiction process. The second box is research. This is where research-driven writing comes in. Maybe I'm reading nonfiction in order to inform parts of my story. Like, when did the phone capability, phone service, become available in Guthrie, Oklahoma? That's something I had to research and look up because a phone call is a critical plot point in the early part of my story. So I had to make sure, did they have phone service then? Because if they didn't, it would not have been believable. Fortunately for me, they did. So I can check that box. I looked it up. Relevant fiction. I had a question over in LiLLiPub where Julia asked, should I read a book that is similar to the book I'm writing? Will it help or will it derail me? My opinion is always read all the books, because I think we see things we want to be doing and we eliminate things we don't want to be doing by reading other books in our genre. I think that's helpful, but you have to decide for yourself. And then other areas of research, things like interviewing experts in the field of which you're writing about. Always rely on your experts because they know firsthand, way better than secondary resources, just in my opinion, but I'm telling you what, go to your experts. The third box is actual development. So we've got developing characters, setting, which includes scenes and sequels, and plot. We'll talk more about each of those elements later, but those are the three things that help me produce the note cards that are going to inform and become parts of my story. So you'll see from there, we have an arrow down to the Zettelkasten zone, which is comprised of two pieces. The main box, which I showed you yesterday when I showed you how I set up my main box behind me, and then the plot box. Maybe tomorrow or the next day, we will get into the plot box and what that looks like and how I use it. You got a sneak peek when you saw my big box, but I want to address that specifically because it can be a valuable tool. So you'll notice those two boxes circle around each other. It's a constant back and forth process between them. Once I get into the writing zone, which means I have enough raw information and research, I have everything filed and it's organized in such a way that I can grab those details when I need them. I can just grab those cards out of my box. Then I'm ready to start writing. The writing zone all ends up in one place. I do the drafting and the rewriting. Some I do by hand. Some I do in Scrivener, which some of you noticed, yes, I do use Scrivener to write my stories, but I also back it up to the cloud and I back it up locally because I have had crashes where I lost everything and it was terrible. I don't recommend it. So I use Scrivener to write, but I back it up multiple ways. So that's my drafting. That's what that looks like. Then I have a plot draft set of folders which mirror my plot box. I'll come back to those two items because that's pretty specific and I want you to see what it looks like. And out of that writing is how I produce what I refer to as finished drafts. Then finished drafts go through their own process of editing, different styles of editing, looking for different things, continuity, and so forth. So that's just a high look at what the architecture of my Zettelkasten usage system looks like in order to create fiction. But we're going to dig way deeper into that as we go along. So with that said, I will leave you with this thought. If you're thinking about starting your own Zettelkasten, which I highly encourage you to do, it is the most valuable tool a writer will ever have, I promise, and I'm going to prove it to you my very own self. Start now. Get yourself a box. Any box will do. Old file box, which is what I started with. Actually, I started with the lid of an old file box. That was my first Zettelkasten right there, and it did its job beautifully. Then I migrated into an actual file box. Then I migrated into a recipe box, and now I'm in the big sweater box. So you do you. Pick a box. Then get yourself some cards. 4x6 or 3x5, doesn't matter, whatever you like. And start thinking about, what am I interested in? What do I want to research? What am I passionate about that I could include as an aspect of my story? Because here's the thing, readers love to read books written by authors who are in love with their story elements. Can't you just tell? You can tell when an author loves what they're writing about because they dig in and under and around it and really bring it to life. That's where the writer gold is. So put an eye towards how can you start building your Zettelkasten around the things that you love in order to bring those things into your writing and share that love with your readers. That is my call to action for today, is get that system started. All you need is a box and some cards, and start that list of what do I love so much that I can't wait to share it with my readers, and start looking into building out that system. Tomorrow we will tackle another aspect of the Zettelkasten for fiction, where imagination finds order. I will continue writing. My goal is to get another chapter finished by the end of tomorrow, and then start doing a little bit of editing and sorting. So I will leave you with that. You know what your job is. You know what your call to action is. Thank you for sharing your time with me. I very much appreciate it. If you want to hightail it on over to victoriacrowder.com, you can sign up to be notified when my book is ready for pre-release. My goal is to give myself 8 weeks. I'm not making that a promise. I'm just setting a realistic goal for getting the first draft all ready to go. So that's where I'm headed. I will leave you. I will see you again tomorrow. Thank you and take care. See you later.